EVP coming through. EVP coming through. Watch out. Watch out. EVP coming through. I loved when Kenny Omega is starting to live that up. You know, as we transition out of the sponsorship that's not sponsoring the show. This was a longer than expected segment, but I really told a fun story. A ton of fun story, you know, trying to promote OC as the mascot of AEW.
That was a funny line.
So this is a nice touch that they added because obviously OC was a little bit hurt and in all this. So it's making it more and more meaningful and more exciting to see OC kind of maybe stick it to Callis, maybe ringside, or stick it to Kenny, you know, get his run. So another one of the many promos we saw tonight, including your buddy, the Bastard Pac, which man. I absolutely loved when he said, "You'll find out what a fool gets when they bet against the bastard."
You love just like I love like the bastard could like say anything, and just the way he delivers it is just absolutely like intense. It just gives you the shivers, man. The guy is a badass. But this promo, this segment between Don Callis, Kenny Omega, and Orange Cassidy, it literally had me laughing out loud at moments. You know, Kenny and Don Callis, the way they were leaning into like, we gotta protect you, you know, as the executives. You know, and like you said, that line about, you know, being a mascot for AEW, not a champion. Like that was a nice dig, a very nice little dig. I thought was really funny, but I also like my favorite moment where Orange Cassidy just slowly, I mean, as slowly as possible, ripping that piece of paper in half. Yeah. That literally got me to laugh out loud, man. I was loving that. That was so funny. But I mean, when you think about it, SPD, I mean, they're not going to pivot away from this, right? Unless Orange Cassidy is genuinely as injured as what we heard coming out of last week's show. Right. You know, because Don Callis and and Kenny, the way that they phrased this contract was you can get a title match against Kenny on your own at any point down the road. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting segment. You know, comedy aside, when you look at like and observe it, maybe it's in Orange Cassidy's best interest to let Pac and Kenny go at it.
Oh my gosh, talk about dream match.
Yeah, brother, you know it. To allow those guys to go head to head and then heal up, rest up, get better, and face Kenny down the road in a one-on-one title match. I don't know. I think that like the way that it was presented, removing the comedy aside, was actually pretty interesting. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I think that this triple threat match is going to be so good. I love that, like the dynamics that, like we've talked about. You know me, I love the intensity of the Bastard. I love the ego and like really delivering to being the best bout machine by Kenny. And then the way that Orange Cassidy fits in this match, they're leaning into that. They're really leaning into him being like discarded, kind of overlooked by these other two competitors. Right. And I like how he can fit into that matchup and kind of sneak in his offense and surprise these guys with what he can do. And you've talked about it, SPD. After the work that was done to establish Orange Cassidy as a top guy by Jericho in that feud, for him to be overlooked going into this match by Pac and Kenny, and then to come out emerging as a peer to the top two guys in the world, that would go a long way in pushing OC back in the front and center of our minds as a legitimate, you know, superstar in the landscape of AEW. I think that would be a really nice way to end that match. He's the guy who would get a huge rub if he's given that chance to kind of look like an equal to those guys. And I think that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for the triple threat. I think it protects people and keeps it very interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first triple threat we've had, or what other triple threat have we had before in AEW? If anyone knows in the chat, please let us know. But because I know they've kind of steered away from that. You know, we've had multi-tag team matches, but I don't know if we've had a triple threat. But we can look into that.
I mean, it certainly stands out. It certainly stands out as like
it's been the first triple threat main event for sure.
Premier, you know, for the title. I mean, this is a big stakes match. And I think that the way that they're playing into it, man, when you combine these promos and you look at the way that the build has gone, we had some questions on who was going to emerge as the clear-cut contender to Kenny, given that we think that this is going to be the year of the belt collector, right? This is going to be the year of the best bout machine. This is a really nice way for AEW to lean into that, not having a clear-cut number one contender. And still protecting all people involved, right? I think that, there's going to be more leaving this match. There's going to be segments of the audience like me who are going to want to see Pac versus Kenny in a one-on-one environment, right? And Pac talked about it at length in his promo. I mean, he hit hard on how he's sick and tired of being overlooked and having opportunities taken away from him. This is a guy who had that match won against Orange Cassidy, and then Kenny came in and got those cheap shots from behind in that match and really threw that match out. Pac versus Kenny is a match that I think the world would be blessed to see as far as work rate goes, intensity. Like that would be a home run match on its own. Then there's going to be another segment of the audience that's going to want to see Orange Cassidy versus Kenny in a one-on-one setting, right? You get it. I think that OC clearly has a huge following, hilarious and great character work, but oftentimes is underappreciated and underrated from an in-ring perspective. The way you and I talk a lot about how important of an art it is to sell. Yeah. And OC is a guy who his opponents always look so freaking good after their matches with him, because the dude the way that he takes offense, and like when you juxtapose his chill, like laid back vibe, and then like you see him like finally getting fired up after like all the beating that he'll take, it's a beautiful thing. He can tell a lot of great stories in his matches. And just imagine Kenny Omega, the guy who's famous for fighting a broom, going, the guy like going against Orange Cassidy and having kind of almost treating it as a joke and having like that aesthetic play out where Orange Cassidy scares Kenny, gets a couple close near falls, really pushes the best guy on the planet. It would be, I don't know. I think there's a lot to like there at going those two separate routes down the road.
That very well said, man. Very well said. And I know.